I'm Joe White. Welcome to Chalk Talk. And I'm delighted today to welcome my guest, Josh Wring. Obviously, Josh is a good friend of mine and work colleague, and we've been meaning to do this for a while. But I'm delighted today to finally have him on here and to talk all things to do with football and sport and our lives so far in that venture. Welcome, Josh. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, Joe. How are you?
Yeah, all good, thanks. All good. Yeah. So, first question for today then. What are your earliest memories in football?
So, I was more of a actual rugby person when I was younger, growing up. Rugby, swimming, taekwondo. Didn't really know too much about football, and essentially, I sat down one Sunday morning and watched basically the Goals on Sunday program with Des Lynham, I think it was. And I remember sort of just in my bunk bed watching it, and this man for Arsenal kept scoring unbelievable goals. I was confused because I saw his name on the back of the shirt as Henry, and I didn't understand why the commentator kept calling him Henri, or with their French pronunciation. And I couldn't understand why they didn't call him Henry and why Henry wasn't getting all this credit. So I got fascinated and started looking into that and started watching a bit more of this program. And from there I sort of gone, I quite enjoyed that. And then, really from there, it was started to kick a ball about with my mates, started talking to them about, I watched this program on this morning, Goals on Sunday. And from there, really, it just sort of got into it and obsessed with football, and it's grown ever since. And from there on, I just developed more and more memories of playing football and also, more importantly, watching football.
Yeah, brilliant. So who was your footballing idol then?
Well, it's quite an obvious one for a lot of people who know me because I never shut up about it. My cat was also named after him as well when we first got a cat, and that is, of course, David Beckham. So David Beckham for me was more than just a football player. He was an icon, ranging from his hairstyles, where I got absolutely inspired by his mohawks, his hairs, and would sort of copy that, so to speak. And I think you would be lying if, as a child, you didn't try and replicate a David Beckham hairstyle when you were younger. I always wanted my ear pierced like David Beckham, but my dad said no. Probably thankful that he actually said no now to this day, because I probably want to suit an ear piercing. But yeah, just the one moment that really obviously stood out with David Beckham was I was a bit too young for the whole sending off in the World Cup in 98. But the big David Beckham moment for me was obviously 2002. Where he scored that free kick at Old Trafford against Greece, which sent England through to South Korea and Japan. And from there on, it was just obsessive. Everything about him was obsessive. And he is my icon and still is to this day.
Yeah, no, great. Do you think he was underrated or?
It's a tough one. I think people only remember him for his free kicks and his dead ball. But actually, if you watch footage of Beckham, you'll see how influential he was on that right-hand side, how he got to the byline, how he whipped in crosses, he contributed for goals, and his all-round game, I think, was overlooked at times. And of course, as he got older, he had to adapt his game. He wasn't quite the player to run past someone, and therefore that's why his free kicks and dead balls became even more precious to him as a player. So yeah, no, I think he was a little underappreciated, actually.
Yeah, he's a great player, obviously, great energy up and down. I mean, his technique was fantastic, wasn't it? Great touch, and he can get out of most situations on the pitch. A lot of the top pundits now compare him to Kevin De Bruyne.
I mean, well, yeah, we've seen how Kevin De Bruyne strikes a ball, and to be compared to a player like Beckham, I think that's an incredible achievement. And I still say it to this day, the one thing that England are lacking and still have never replaced is a dead ball specialist. Every major tournament we went into, we haven't found the replacement for David Beckham, and I stand by that. And the closest I felt we had was James Ward-Prowse, but still is not in the caliber of DB07.
Yeah, they were saying that last night. I was watching that Italy game at the Euros last night, and they were saying that there's not been a free kick scored yet in the whole tournament, which I found quite interesting. I know the players practice them a lot, but it's just not materialised that a goal's come from one yet.
No.
So you're a Villa fan then, aren't you? Tell us more about that.
Well, my friends like to banter me about this because once upon a time I did support Manchester United, and that was because David Beckham played for them. And of course, I supported more David Beckham than I did actually Manchester United, believe it or not. So my top always had Beckham on. I was more obsessed with him and everything that he did, and followed them. But then it got to a point when I was about 10 or 11, and I said to my dad, like, how can we never go to watch Manchester United? Why is it the case that we don't sort of go and watch them? And he obviously had to explain, it's a 3-4 hour journey. It's not easy to get there. Tickets quite hard. So I basically turned around and said to him, well, what's the point of supporting a team if I can't go watch them? Was basically my comment to him. So we sat down. I said, well, David Beckham, he's going to eventually move. And he did, of course, to Real Madrid and the Galacticos, which then made me like, right, I need to change clubs here. So Aston Villa was actually the closest as the crow flies team to our house in the Premier League. And from there on, I said, can you take me to a game? I want to go see Villa Park, see what this team's like. Because I'll be honest, I didn't know too much about them, but they were doing quite well under Martin O'Neill, pushing for Champions League football as well, which feels a lifetime ago. And went to Villa Park. And my first game was actually Aston Villa versus Manchester United. And Villa lost 2-0. Ronaldo and Darren Fletcher got sent off. And it was just everything about Villa Park, the atmosphere, the journey, just made me fall in love with the club and never look back.
No, brilliant. Obviously, their European successes were obviously a long time ago, weren't they? Obviously, before you were born. Do people you've come into contact with reminisce about them?
Oh yeah, you'll hear Villa fans talk about 1982 every day of the week because there are still some clubs, Man City, who have never won a European Cup or a European trophy, and we are in a elite group of English clubs who still hold that. But it's been a rocky journey as a Villa fan. I've seen us go from challenging top four to see us being relegated from the Premier League to seeing us being stuck in the Championship, to having playoff heartache, to then having playoff triumph. And for me, I think Aston Villa Football Club are in an incredible position where the only way is up. We've got owners who are worth 10 billion in net worth. They're pumping money in left, right, and Wigan. We've got Jack Grealish, one of the best players in England right now.
Not too long though.
Well, he's staying, so I don't know why people are getting hyped up about this, but the journey and the pathway that the Villa hierarchy want this football club to go on is only but positive. And don't know, I can see us breaking into Europe in the next couple of years. I really can.
Yeah, all the foundations are there. Obviously, they've done well the last few seasons, haven't they? And hopefully that can continue to be the case. Perhaps we'll have to go and watch a game together one day.
Yeah. I'll take you to the Holt End or the Trinity Road stand or the Doug Ellis, whichever one.
I've never been to Villa Park.
Wow, you're missing out. One of the best old school stadiums as well. It's still one of them that's got a very close atmosphere to the pitch, 45,000 capacity as well. And yeah, it's one of those still old school stadiums you've got to appreciate.
No, great. So did you play football growing up then? What sort of age did you start playing football?
Yeah, basically, probably from year 7 onwards. Primary school, basically, I started getting involved year 5 and year 6 for a little grassroots team. And I went to a primary school where there was only 12 kids in my year, 3 of which were boys. So, it was hard to basically get involved in football. I found a little village club, got involved there. And I remember actually, we went to a tournament in year 6 at Forest Green Stadium. So Forest Green hosted this little tournament.
Was that the old stadium?
Yeah, it was the old stadium. It was the old stadium, the old lawn. And so I went there and we had an incredible tournament. We played some really good teams and I scored in every game in the tournament apart from the final. And I scored some stunners, I must admit. It's probably that I still look back and think, I've never had a tournament like it. We're scoring bicycle kicks. It was unbelievable. And then went to the final and I missed an open goal to win it for us. So I've had this tournament where I'm banging them in goals and I miss an open goal, goes to penalty shootout, we win. But a big moment about that for me is I went to this new secondary school where I didn't know anyone, a couple of people, rocked up. And one thing that sort of really stood to mind is people were like, "Oh, you're that kid who was really good at this tournament," and that for me was already an icebreaker to start making new friends, because there were people who recognised me from the tournament, and I got to sort of talk to people. And then from there I sort of went and played for Siren Town, which was a really good stepper, a bit of a different change. Left all my friends behind to play a bit of a better standard of football, and then I got involved with Forest Green under-18s. For a season or two, and then from there it's just been men's football, and really, playing has always just been a hobby, an enjoyment, so to speak. I've never really gone to myself, see how far I can challenge myself. Definitely from the age of 18, after I went to uni, wasn't that bothered once I went to uni. I just wanted to enjoy myself, and play. And it was easy to accept that. But then that's when I started to get involved in other things, such as coaching and that side of the game.
So that leads quite nicely into that then. So, I mean, what's your best position as a player? Where did you play growing up?
So from 11 to 14, 15, I used to play as a striker, because I was quick, and ball was played over the top. I'd run in behind the goal. And then as I went into under-18s, because I was still like 5'4" or something stupid like that, and too small, and a really skinny player, I got moved to fullback. I if I was playing men's football now, I like playing up front, but also I don't mind playing in a back line now, whether it's centre half or right back, and sort of controlling and commanding the game through that.
Okay, yeah, great. So that leads on to sort of how old were you then when you first started thinking about wanting to take coaching qualifications and progress through that? What did you obviously would have to do your level 1 or 1 first? How old were you at that?
So it would have been first year at uni. I was 18, maybe going on 19. Basically, one of my lecturers, part of my degree, which was physical education and sports studies, one of my lecturers sort of pulled me aside one day and said, "Oh, you've got a bit of a knack for coaching after watching you in one of the modules." So he was like, "Have you ever done any coaching?" I was like, "No, just I love the game. I'm obsessed with it. I love talking about it. I could talk about it for years and years." But yeah, never thought about it. He said, "Listen, I'm going to get you on a level 1." He says, "At the university campus, really easy to do. You get a discount as well as a student," and it was a really good discount. And he put me on this level 1, and from there on, sort of never looked back. It was really good support. They then put me into this charter standard football club that had like 28 teams across under 6s to under 18s, like loads and loads of teams. And yeah, just from there, progressively got me a lot more interested, and started to look at the range of opportunities in coaching and what you could do.
Yeah, great. So we did our level 2 together, didn't we? Is that right?
Yeah, so that would have been what? Cool. I'm trying to remember when we did that. I think I did that in my PGCE. I think I did that then in my PGCE. So that would have been 21, 22. So about 4 or 5 years ago now. Yeah. So that's how we met, isn't it? On a level 2 coach course at Almondsbury, the GFA. Yeah. And yeah, that was an interesting course, wasn't it? It was there's still some of the basics that they covered and went over, but it was definitely an eye-opener in how to sort of improve some of the basics in the technical corner and the tactical corner, and how you structure a session. And you saw the difference from a level 1 to a level 2. I don't know if you felt the same.
Yeah, I think level 1 was more about sort of just having the confidence to get in front of a group and put some cones out and sort of be able to sort of run a session and maybe add 1 or 2 sort of tactical and technical concepts in, wasn't it? And ball rolling was the thing they were mainly interested in, wasn't it? Sort of set the up and don't talk too much and let them get on with it. And then level 2 went into a little bit more detail again. And then obviously we went on to do our B license then, didn't we? And that obviously is a whole new level again, isn't it? With all a lot of the sort of tactical stuff and scenarios they put forward to you. So yeah, let's talk about that. You did yours with Forest Green, obviously, didn't you? So did you? Wait, you moved on to Forest Green coaching there. What age group was it again?
Yeah, so I first started with Forest Green under 10s. So I went into
was that after your level 2 then?
Yeah, so I had my level 2, and I basically saw this opportunity coming up at Forest Green. I knew someone from there who basically said, apply. Usually you need a UEFA B in the academy setup, which is what they look for, but they said apply, you never know. So I did, got involved. They were like perfect. I think obviously having my teaching background helped, being a PE teacher, and they put me on. And basically, yeah, I got immersed in the under 10s, and then I followed that age group up to under 11s, and then obviously a little bit into under 12s, and basically they offered me the opportunity to do my UEFA B through the pro license sort of route of being academy football clubs. So we joined up with some other coaches who were level 2s from Cheltenham Town, from Newport, from Bournemouth, and from Exeter, and we all basically did this UEFA B together. So it was pretty interesting to have other academy coaches, and I found that they really pushed and drove us in terms of the academy side of the game. There was a lot more performance analysis. There was a lot more spotlight and scrutiny on the types of sessions you delivered. There was a big step up from that level 2, and it wasn't, as I saw the level 1 and 2 as like, you're definitely going to pass. It was more of a journey. It was more of, we will pass you when you're ready to be passed, and which I appreciated, because there was no point ticking you off just because they need to. It was a point of, we'll come watch you, we'll see how your project's getting on. If you're not quite there and we have to give you a few pointers, that's fine. Do these for next time, then we'll have a look where you're at again. And that was really helpful.
Yeah, certainly. They don't just sign you off anymore, do they? It's not just a case of, you're up to, you've actually got to be at the level that they require of you, don't they? Which is positive, I think.
Yeah.
No, great. So obviously Forest Green then. How long were you at Forest Green for? What was the experience like at coaching there? Obviously they helped put you through your B license then. What was the whole experience at Forest Green like, coaching in the youth setup there?
Yeah, so for me, I look back at my time and think, only positive to gain from it. The big thing for me is that Forest Green were also a new academy at the time. So for them, as I joined, they'd just become a Cat 3 academy. I was new to it all. Didn't really know like what was right and what was wrong at academy, but straight away it was that difference in players' attitudes, going from grassroots football, the expectations, less involvement with parents. So parents, were very much told, stay away from our sessions. You watch from the side, your input, we don't need you. But there was also that detail of planning, which was very much needed, and you needed to evidence that beforehand. And we've all done it before. Grassroots team will rock up and we'll plan our session in our car as we're driving there, and we'll think, right, I'm going to do this tonight. But with Forest Green, it was all about, you had to bring a session plan. This is what you were going to do. These were the coaching points you wanted to make sure you got across in the session. These were the players you were going to target tonight, and basically really map out your session, which was good for me to think, right, this is what I need to do. We obviously trained twice a week, a Monday and a Friday, and then we had the games program on a Sunday. And as much as I loved it, and as much as I wish I could carry on there, the problem I found is work-life balance, in terms of doing my main paid job, which was obviously teaching, to then committing to this job, which also did pay really well, but at the same time it took a lot of my time. And an example might be, on a Sunday we could be traveling to Exeter away, Bournemouth away, Plymouth away. Well, that was like a 6:30 meet, and you wouldn't get home till 5 or 6 o'clock on a Sunday. It's a whole Sunday gone, and then you're back to the grind again on a Monday and training. And it got to a point where I just started to not enjoy football. I actually found it a bit of a chore. I found I was only doing it because of the money, and that wasn't right for me. That wasn't right to feel like that, because obviously football is a passion. It's a sport that I get involved in because I love the game. And when it became that I was turning up just for the money, I knew something was wrong, and I had to make the big choice to basically step away and say, this isn't for me anymore. I can't do both. But so many positive experiences. I've learned a lot about myself as a coach. I've learned a lot through talking to different coaches. You get involved in some really top professionals. I was lucky enough that when I first started, Jan Klakowski, who's played league football for 10 years, he was my other coach who I worked with for 2 seasons. Now, to have the knowledge of Jan and ask him any question you wanted was invaluable experience that you couldn't get anywhere else, to be fair.
Yeah, I know Jan. I've done a bit of training with him and stuff in the past. He's a good lad, isn't he?
Really, really top guy. Really professional is a great word to describe him, but also a very accommodating and good person and very good listener. And I think you can ask him questions, but he'll also listen to you. And I found him, credit to him, he enabled me and recognised the rigours of my Monday to Friday job.
Yeah.
And he really did recognise that. And he did take a lot of heat on for me in terms of the workload and the session planning. And that I'll always be credited to him for being so understanding of that as well.
Yeah, no, that's great. Any nuggets from him? Did he any bits of interesting information you gleaned from him?
Yeah, there was so much, as I said, that I gained from him. I think his professionalism, no matter the age, we're dealing with 10 and 11-year-olds, but you treat them like they were, senior players, and kept the same standards and expectations throughout. And I think that was very important for me to recognise that, yes, your coaching points and your delivery is going to be different to a 10-year-old, but you still set the same expectations and standards, and everything was thorough, everything was professional. He always gave me, nuggets on when we're in-game stuff, when we're looking at formations and tactics from there. And I'll be honest, and we're happy to say this, is that we went through a really tough patch where we basically went 2 seasons without winning a game. Okay, so as an academy, we were an up-and-coming academy. We had just turned academy. We have still had players that were probably grassroots standards within our team. We didn't have any scouts in place, so we couldn't go and get players straight away. That only took us to our 2nd season. And you'll know, Joe, how hard it is to go when you don't win games. And that's with senior players, but try doing that with 10 and 11-year-olds. Try painting a bigger picture to a 10 and 11-year-old that everything we're doing, we're playing, we're sticking to a philosophy, sticking to a system. We're getting battered.
Tough.
And he handled it really well. He kept driving those consistent messages, and it's something I look back on in terms of, as a person, how do you show resilience? How do you show adversity as a leader when really it is frustrating, as I said, to travel all that way. You go down to Exeter and you get boxed 12-0.
What do you end up having to park the bus then after a while?
Yeah, that's the thing. It was, the club had a certain way they wanted us to play. We have to try and adhere to that. And that's a thing you find at academies. This is our philosophy. This is our DNA, play like this. We tried it. We weren't good enough at it. We weren't good enough at playing out from back. We weren't good enough at these formations. We got exposed. So then it was a point of, right, let's tweak it. We are going to still encourage the boys to do certain things that the club says, but we've also have to park the bus. We're also going to have to really focus on defending. And that's what we've done, to be fair. We coached. We had our syllabus. And that's another thing I learned from working at academies, is that every 2 weeks we'd go on to a different topic. So 2 weeks it would be attacking. 2 weeks it would be dribbling and running with the ball. 2 weeks it would be defending. 2 weeks it would be team shape. So it always changed. It would always change. But a lot of what we did was, how are we going to be hard to beat? How can we be hard to beat? And we saw the progress in that. We just didn't have much of the ball. So there we go. Yeah.
It's interesting what you say there, because from my experience in sort of men's football and stuff, you find that it's a little bit more sessions are more orientated around what's happened maybe in the previous game or what's going to happen in the next game, as opposed to like, well, we're going to do attacking for 2 weeks and we're going to do defending, then we'll do some dribbling, then it'll be shooting. Because obviously it's a more of a results orientated business in terms of, well, actually, what happened on the weekend, right? How can we solve that? How can we make that better? Who are we playing next week? What are their strengths and weaknesses? How can we combat that? So it's quite interesting to see that difference with academy coaching,
Yeah, the idea is just to expose the players at that age. And it was consistent throughout, to be fair, that they would go through that cycle 5 times in a season, and they would have at least, 2 times 5, 10, 20 hours of defending, 20 hours of improving their dribbling, 20 hours of, as I said, attacking.
Yeah.
And as you said, the one frustrating thing is sometimes you think, bloody hell, we really need to work on this, but it's not quite fit into our syllabus. So you have to change it. You have to tweak. That's another thing, tweaking your sessions to get out some of the input that you wanted while sticking to sort of what the academy wanted in terms of the structure. Yeah.
And that's a skill that obviously stand you in great stead in the future. Brilliant. So obviously, just onto your new venture, I know that you've managed obviously what was the name of the team you managed in the Stroud?
Yeah, so obviously when I came back from uni, I didn't really know what to do, whether I play, whether I coach. I thought, I still can do a bit of both. So I was a player manager for a team called Did Martin in the Stroud League, Stroud Div 2. To be fair, we were complete underdogs. We were complete, like, no one really knew about us. I got a load of my mates to come play for me and then went in and coached this team, and we won the league, and it was incredible to do that in the first season. Second season, I then went and took over another Stroud League team just to get more senior men experience. And that basically got null and void near the end of the season because of the weather. And we didn't actually finish the season. And also then it was also the case of COVID. And then last season, I basically took out a year of management just because I was fed up with COVID. I was fed up with everything. And I just thought I need to just go back to doing again what I love doing, which is going to kick a football around. So I went and played in the Northern Senior League. But yeah, this year I've just decided to take on a new project. Didn't expect it, to be fair. Didn't expect it. It was offered to me out of the blue. And I thought, is this what I want to do again? Go into coaching again? I'm not sure if I'm ready. And yeah, been presented with a under-18s job at Slimbridge.
Yeah, brilliant. And I know you've already had a few sessions already, and we've spoken to them about what do you do in your first session, how do you lay things out, and this sort of thing. And I know you've taken several sessions now, haven't you? You're sort of getting into it and enjoying it. Can you sum up how that's gone so far?
Yeah, so we've done 2 weeks of preseason. Reason why, I guess, is I found this with a lot of teams you're looking at. It's hard to judge when to start your preseason. We've missed out so much football in the last 2 years. Some teams have just trained all the way through. Some have started early. Some are going to start late. But yeah, I've got a situation here where it's a really good pathway. And I talk about a pathway which is all about trying to get these 18-year-olds to buy into, is that if they come and play for us in the under-18s, they've got a chance of playing for the reserves, who play in the Hellenic 2, should be in the Hellenic 1 next season. If all things go right, they should be winning that league. And that's for our Slimbridge reserves. And then first team play in the Southern League, paid to play. And we've got that clear progression. And if you look in every team, there's someone who started at the under-18s. So yeah, my issue is, I say it's a good issue. I've got 27, 28 players on my books at the moment. It's hard to know how to cut. There's some very good standard of players we're working at. And also bearing in mind that these lads play college football as well. So they'll be playing on Wednesday. We play in the Floodlit League in the Tuesday. We've got the FA Youth Cup. So I'll be doing that, college football on Wednesday. And then they could be playing on a Saturday for our reserve team. So can I have a bigger squad? Potentially, to balance out minutes. But yeah, so it's been a good challenge, and I've enjoyed it. And I think you forget, don't you, that buzz you get on a grass where you have a session, you get your cones down, you get the players going, and you think, that's why I said yes to this. This is why I said yes to this project.
Yeah. No, great. Right. Couple more things. I know obviously you're on a bit of a tight schedule. Just similarities between coaching and teaching. Do you think your teaching background helps your coaching, and how similar do you think those two things are?
Good question. Teaching, you have to think on the spot sometimes. So you recognise one of your lessons. Sometimes. Most of the time. You recognise the lessons going pear-shaped. You recognise some children aren't behaving well. You recognise that something's not quite right in your lesson. You have to change. You have to adapt. You can either let it continue to sink and hope that it doesn't sink to the bottom of the ocean, or you try and get things steady again. And I think that's the same with coaching. I think that's one skill I've recognised, is that you look at a session, you've planned it out on paper, you think it's absolutely the bee's knees, you go and deliver it, some of your players haven't got a clue what's going on. Or it just doesn't work out how you imagine in your head. So you have to think. You have to think. You don't want to lose the quality of a session. You don't want your players to become disinterested because the session isn't flowing. So you have to be able to think like that. And I find that I'll jump in 2-3 minutes in and go, no, let's change this up. This isn't how I imagine it. Let's change this up. So I think it's about thinking on the spot. I think it's about relationships. As a teacher, you've got to have relationships with people, those who you work with and those who are in front of you. And your players need to feel part of a team. Your players need to feel that you care for them, that you want the best for them. And that for me is a big part. Two things: relationships and being adaptive and thinking on the spot definitely come hand in hand with teaching and coaching. Absolutely.
Brilliant. Right, last question. Sixaside team. Name me your Sixaside team from players that since you've been born.
Okay.
So we all play Sixaside tournaments when we were younger kids. So what would your all-star Sixaside team be from players that you've seen or that have played since you've been alive?
Okay. This may not be the best actual Sixaside team, but they're my favourite players.
All Villa players, you are.
They're my favourite players in positions. So in goal for me, it's got to be David Seaman. All right. Listen, the iconic ponytail, some of the saves that he made for England and Arsenal. You go back to that FA Cup semi-final against Sheffield United. Still think that's one of the freakiest saves I've ever seen at Old Trafford, where he made that huge save. So David Seaman for me would be my goalkeeper. I don't think I've seen a better one in his caliber. But then, it could be easy for me to say Edison. It could be easy for me to say, a keeper like Edison, who I absolutely love. But, I'm going to stick with David Seaman, old school. Defenders then. Defenders. Number one in defence got to be John Terry. Captain, leader, legend. Everything you need in a bloke is there. And I'm talking about an old school defender. When you play six-a-side, you don't want your defenders thinking they're Maradona and losing their shape and going to play up front, right? Terry, he'll stay at the back for me and he'll block everything. He'll throw his body on the line and he'll do the business. So JT, my other defender that I'm having in my sort of six-a-side team, I'm just trying to think of my formation here. We're playing 2-2-1. So my other defender alongside John Terry is going to be Rio Ferdinand. Again, I'm going old school because I've got to, really. Rio, again.
Childhood, huh?
Yeah, it's childhood, isn't it? It's childhood. Again, I could say Virgil van Dijk. I could say Fabio Cannavaro. But I don't know. I've watched a lot of Rio Ferdinand. And, he for me was another iconic defender. And the partnership of JT and Rio is unbelievable. So there we go. Right, midfield then. This is where it gets difficult for me because you could have every player under the sun. But it's got to be Frank Lampard. I need a goal scorer midfielder. Right? Yeah. Need goal scorer midfielder. Look no more than Frank Lampard. His record speaks for himself. So Frank Lampard is going to be number one in there. Now, this player, he's my maverick. He's allowed to do what he wants to do. In his current condition, he probably wouldn't last 2 minutes in six-a-side, but I'm going back to his prime, all right? It's Ronaldinho. All right, it's 10R, Ronaldinho. So I've got my goal scorer in Lampard. I've got two defenders. This allows Ronaldinho to basically do whatever the hell he wants. Listen, another player that made me fall in love with football even more, iconic on these FIFA games, the flip-flaps, the tricks, the skills, the showboating. For me, he made football another level. I didn't realise you could showboat in football, and then it comes to him. So he's my man, my flair, my creativity. And up front...
Heskey up front.
It's a tough one. Right? Because I could go old school, could look to the current team now. So for me, there's only one player who could come my six-a-side team right now. All right, and that's Harry Kane. No, would it be Harry Kane? I don't know. That was to annoy you. I could go Michael Owen. I could go throwback again, a goal scorer that when I first think about how I fell in love with football, Michael Owen was one of those players. If I looked more modern, I could stick someone like Messi, Ronaldo up there, but everyone would have him in their six-a-side team. So, yeah, why? You said Heskey? He was iconic. Villa and England. But if I really had to go one, Joe, if I really, really did have to go probably for a serious shout, and I genuinely don't know, I think this lad, I don't think you're a fan of this player either, but I think, again, iconic. Zlatan Ibrahimovic.
Okay, yeah.
I've got my Lampard, I've got my Ronaldinho, and I've got Zlatan. He's just a goal machine, but also a workhorse. And yeah, I love Zlatan for everything he embodies. Some people hate him, some people love him. I'm a lover of Zlatan. So yeah, that's my Sixaside team. Tough one, that. And you never want to do the Barry Basic of Ronaldo and Messi, do you? Because everyone would have them. So that's
what a team that is.
Yeah,
no Villa players.
John Terry played for Villa.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll have that. We get that in for a season. But no, that was more like, I don't know. That Sixaside team for me was more based on people I loved as a supporter of the game. If it was, it's not the best Sixaside team, but it's who.
It's personal to you. No, that's great.
Yeah.
Last thing, then, promote your YouTube channel.
Yeah, View from the Stands, you can see. It's similar to you. We do podcasts, we do live watch-alongs. It's just a new project that I took up in lockdown because I was sick of the lockdowns. I needed to do something, so I decided to make a YouTube channel. And it's all good. It's all good. So if you want to check it out, A View from the Stands, very easy to remember. Come check it out, and love to see you subscribe to my channel and any live streams or in any of the comments of any other videos.
And can you sell Chalk Talk as well or not?
Chalk Talk, the next biggest podcast. It's going to be all football, all personal questions, and the story and lives of past and current players, coaches, sports scientists, anything that Chalk would want to talk about.
Brilliant. Great. So my name's Joe White. You've been listening to Chalk Talk, and thanks very much today to our guest Josh Wring for coming on. And we've had a great chat and really thoroughly enjoyed that. We'll try and get you back on when I get a few more subscribers.
Love it. Can't wait.
Cheers. Thanks, Josh.
Cheers, mate. Ta-da. Bye-bye.